Next up, we're going to look at microscopic layers of our digestive tract. Now the cool part is these are going to be the same 4 layers from our esophagus to our anus, and they don't change too much. There will be some that we look at in the small intestine with unique characteristics, but other than that, this is what we'll see throughout the entire gut tube. So to orient ourselves, this side of the model more superiorly, this is going to be closest to our lumen, the opening of the tube. And then down here, make sure I'm in view here, this is going to be that outermost layer that is interfacing with the surrounding tissue of the body. So let's start closest to that lumen. Layer number 1 is going to be the mucosa, sometimes called a mucous membrane, and that is going to be this entire layer. So cool things about the mucosa is they are the ones that are actively involved with absorption and secretion of nutrients and waste. Within that mucous membrane, we have these finger-like projections called villi, and this is again where we have mucus goblet cells, they're called, producing mucus that is released into that alimentary canal. So each of the blue-gray structures are individual goblet cells. Got one here, one here, one here, and they are interspersed with this columnar epithelium. Okay. Layer number 2 is our submucosa. So we've moved now from this layer and we're looking directly below it, and boy howdy is there a lot to see here. So our mucosa is mostly dense irregular connective tissue as well as loose areolar connective tissue. So it's quite a mix, and we are going to see many, many blood vessels. We have what looks like arterioles and venules. We're going to have lots and lots of capillaries, and you may also see a lot of lymphatics. These are little lymphatic vessels, and they're all communicating with one another to secrete and exchange substances and get waste out of that system. So moving on down from that submucosa, we have our muscularis externa. This layer is our external muscular layer, and we can see we have 2 different fiber orientations here. This one is moving crosswise, and then this one is more longitudinal. So what we're dealing with is an inner layer of circular smooth muscle and an outer layer of longitudinal smooth muscle that's running lengthwise. And together, these 2 contribute to peristalsis, which is that contraction that actually propels food through our digestive tract. So food does not just move passively through our tract. We actually need this contraction of smooth muscle to help us digest things. And it also helps to mix those digestive juices, things like our pancreatic enzymes and the juices in the stomach. This helps to churn that lovely combination of food and juice to help us to ingest material. And then lastly, we have our outermost layer, kind of everything within this little layer. This is our adventitia or serosa. So depending on where we are in the digestive tract, this has a different name, and this is where it can get tricky for students. So if we recall, a serosa is a membrane lined by visceral peritoneum. So places where we will see serosa are in the stomach, the small intestine, and most of our large intestine or colon. But we also have some parts of our digestive tract that need to be anchored securely to the surrounding tissue. In that case, we have an adventitia. Think A for anchor and A for adventitia. So areas that need to be secured by connective tissue are not covered by visceral peritoneum. So those areas include the esophagus, the ascending and descending colon, and then the rectum. So be careful with this, but depending on where you are in the colon, we'll either have a serosa or an adventitia as our outer layer. And depending on if we want sort of that serous membrane that's reducing friction versus an adventitia that is making things more securely connected, that is going to affect where we see this outermost layer.